Welcome to episode 13 of the Barbecue, Booze, and Life podcast. This is your host, George. I've got a very special episode for y'all today. We're going to talk tacos. We're going to talk tequila. And we're going to talk some fun facts about Mexico City. And it's going to be great. Why am I excited about this episode? Well, tacos are a universal food. Everyone's got their own versions of it that the Mexicans have exported overseas. It's a daily. It's a food that's appropriate 24 hours a day. You could be sober. You could be drunk. You could be going out with your family. It could be 2 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon. It's always time for a taco. My favorite memories of tacos, I can't share all of them because some family and my wife will probably be listening to this episode. But my favorite memories of tacos is just being in Mexico with my family, standing around my uncle's grill that he has in his home, and then just the smells of the charcoal while the carne asada is being made. And then my favorite taco is having some grilled onions on the side, of course, the obligatory grilled onions, and then just straight up some carne asada chopped up with some onions, cilantro, and just some salsa. But my other favorite taco is called La Gringa, and it's a popular type of taco in Mexican cuisine, and it's particularly known in Mexico City. Usually you'll find that people will fill a flour tortilla with cheese and al pastor meat, which is the marinated pork we've talked in previous episodes. Then the tortilla is grilled until the cheese melts and the meat is heated through. And it's often served, well, I like to have it with cilantro, onions, some grilled pineapple with a little bit of lime on top. And it is, if you haven't tried it, let me repeat it to you. Just a flour tortilla with some al pastor meat on top, some cheese, any cheese you like. I prefer the Oaxacan melting cheese, which you'll most often find that's used for quesadillas. Then, after you've grilled it, you throw on some cilantro, some onion, and some grilled pineapple with a little bit of lime, and make sure you have your grilled onions on the side. Those are my go-to. So let's move on to our Facts Not Your Feelings segment. Some fun facts about Mexico City, since tacos are basically a regional affair throughout the country of Mexico. And I thought, well, why not hit some fun facts about Mexico City, and then we'll talk a little bit about tequila, which I won't be able to do tequila justice in this episode, and then we'll move on to the tacos. So, something that you probably don't know about Mexico City is one of the oldest continuously inhabited urban areas in the Western Hemisphere. It was originally built by the Aztecs in 1325 as Tenochtitlan, and it's actually considered the oldest capital in the Americas. Mexico City was also built on a lake which was once Lake Texcoco. The Aztecs constructed the city on islands in the lake, which was eventually drained by the Spanish after their conquest. Go figure. Because of this, it's also known as the sinking city. And it's sinking at an alarming rate. Not in all of the city, but parts of the city are sinking at about a 10 centimeter or 4 inches per year in some areas. The largest university in Latin America is also located in Mexico City. It's called the UNAM, the National Autonomous University of Mexico. Its campus is actually a UNESCO World Heritage Site due to its architectural significance and murals by famous Mexican artists. Mexico is also home to Chapultepec Park, which is one of the largest city parks in the Western Hemisphere, even bigger than Central Park in New York City. It houses Chapultepec Castle, museums, a zoo, and lakes. You can also find the floating gardens of Xochimilco, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Again, lots of UNESCO heritage sites in Mexico, which features a network of canals and colorful trajenidas, or boats. It's a popular spot for locals and tourists to enjoy festive boat rides and traditional Mexican music. And if you're in the area, I highly recommend going. I've done this myself a few times, and it's a really beautiful experience. I haven't done it as an adult. I would love to take my kids there one day. And if you've visited Rome, much like Rome, you will find tons of Aztec ruins within the city itself. Some of them include Templo Mayor, which was the main capital of the Aztec capital Teotihuacan. So you could be easily dining or walking past one of these ruins or dining near one of these ruins within the city itself. Well, Enrique, who do we have here?
Yes, Pollito.
Pollito. Is that his name or a nickname?
Yes.
Okay. Is Pollito going to talk tequila for us? No. Okay. Well, I guess like always, I'll just take it from here. So I thought tequila would be appropriate for this episode. Personally, I think a cold beer goes well with tacos, but since tequila is something that's enjoyed across the world, I thought, and we're just talking about Mexico in general, it might be the best route to go. Tequila is a distilled spirit made from the blue agave plant, which is primarily produced in the region surrounding the city of Tequila in the Mexican state of Jalisco. So what are the origins of tequila? They date back to pre-Hispanic Mexico, where the Aztecs were fermenting the sap of the agave plant to create a beverage called pulque. I have tried pulque. If you are in Mexico, pulque is a must. The modern process of distilling tequila began with the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors in the 16th century. So if you go and you visit Teotihuacan, you can actually try pulque there. Or if you go to the locations of the Sun and Moon pyramids. Tequila production is regulated by the Mexican government, and only specific regions are allowed to produce it, similar to the way champagne can only be produced in the Champagne region of France. So let's talk a little bit about the production process. Harvesting. The heart of the blue agave plant, called the piña, is harvested after 8 to 12 years of growth. The piñas are then cooked to convert the starches into fermentable sugars. The cooked agave is then crushed to extract the sweet agave juice. The juice is fermented, which converts the sugars into alcohol. Most of you already know that. Then the fermented juice undergoes double distillation to purify the liquid and increase the alcohol content. Some tequilas are aged in oak barrels, which can add complexity and flavor to the spirit. Now, there are several different types of tequila. Let's start with blanco, or silver. The silver tequila is unaged or aged less than 2 months, clear and pure in flavor. The reposado tequila is aged between 2 months and 1 year in oak barrels, which gives it a slight golden color and a more complex flavor. The añejo is aged between 1 and 3 years in small oak barrels, resulting in a darker color and more developed flavors. The extra añejo is aged more than 3 years with deep, rich flavors and a dark amber color. The joven, or gold, is a mixture of blanco tequila with aged tequilas, often with added color and flavoring. And then there's also the cristalino tequila, which is a type of tequila that has been aged in oak barrels, like other aged tequilas, but then undergoes a filtration process to remove the color while retaining the complex flavors developed during the aging process. This results in a clear tequila with the smoothness and depth of an aged spirit. This happens to be my personal favorite. I like reposados, but then I discovered cristalinos, and I prefer cristalinos. Now, some of you may be asking, well, why haven't you talked about mezcal? Well, mezcal and tequila are both spirits made from the agave plant, but they have distinct differences. So I'm going to now talk a little bit about mezcal. The origin of mezcal comes from different regions of Mexico, but most notably in Oaxaca. Mezcal can be made from various types of agave plants, including espadín, tobala, and others. The process involves roasting the agave piñas in earthen pits, which gives the mezcal its characteristic smoky flavor. The roasted agave is then crushed, fermented, and distilled. Same distilling process. Now, its flavor profile, as I previously mentioned, is a little smoky, it's a little bit more earthy than tequila, and it has a wide range of tasting notes depending on the agave used and the production method. Previous episode, we had talked about the margarita, and certainly my favorite beverage to enjoy with tacos is just a cold Mexican beer or a cold Mexican Coca-Cola. But don't be afraid to have a cocktail with tequila in it, or just drink the tequila straight if that is your preference. As I just mentioned, there are several different ways to enjoy the tequila. I've learned to just sip it straight depending upon the type that I'm drinking. Sometimes I'll have a slice of lime or a pinch of salt on standby. There's a lot of popular cocktails people enjoy. If you want to give away some of your dignity, you might enjoy Tequila Sunrise. I enjoyed that early on in my life before I grew up. Now, let's talk tacos. The history of the Mexican taco is rich and deeply intertwined with the cultural and culinary development of Mexico. So, the pre-Columbian era origins of the taco started with the indigenous peoples of Mesoamerica, such as the Aztecs and the Maya, who were already consuming foods that can be considered precursors to the modern-day taco. They used tortillas made from maize that held various fillings at the time, such as fish, insects, and beans. So they used this process called nixtamalization, where maize is treated with lime to remove the husk and improve its nutritional value, which was crucial in the creation of tortillas. This ancient technique remains central to the taco preparation today. So during the colonial period, when the Spanish arrived in the 16th century, they brought with them new ingredients like pork, beef, chicken, cheese, and other spices that weren't available in the region. This began to influence the indigenous cuisine. The blending of Spanish and indigenous food laid the groundwork for many Mexican dishes, including tacos. So the earliest documented references to something resembling a taco dated back to the 18th century. Mexican silver miners are said to have used tortillas to wrap their food, calling them tacos de minero, miners' tacos. So in the 19th and early 20th century, we began to see different regional varieties. By the 19th century, tacos had become a popular street food in Mexico City. Different regions began developing their own versions based on local ingredients and culinary traditions, which is something we've talked about in a few other episodes. The way they're doing it on the East Coast versus the West Coast and down in the Yucatan Peninsula, it's different depending upon what ingredients are available. A good example are tacos al pastor, which were inspired by Middle Eastern shawarmas and became popular in the capital, Mexico City. The rise of urbanization and street food culture in Mexico City helped popularize the tacos. They became an affordable and convenient meal for the working class. Mid to late 20th century, you find that Mexican immigrants brought their tacos to the States, specifically in California and Texas, and other states with significant Mexican-American populations. And tacos certainly have tacos gained their popularity within the region. But we've also seen the globalization of tacos. In the later half of the 20th century, tacos started to gain international recognition. And unfortunately, they've been commercialized by fast food restaurants like Taco Bell. If that's been your only exposure to tacos, you need some Jesus in your life. But now you can find tacos all over the world. It certainly is a cultural icon. So let's talk some varieties. And a few of these we've talked about in other episodes, but of course there's tacos al pastor, which is one of my favorite, which is made with marinated pork cooked on a vertical split and typically served with pineapple, onions, and cilantro. The only way to eat it. There's tacos de carnitas, featuring slow-cooked pork, usually served with cilantro, onions, and salsa. Tacos de barbacoa, which we've talked about in the previous episode, made with slow-cooked beef or lamb, often served with onions, cilantro, and rich broth. Tacos de pescado, fish tacos, which are often made with battered and fried fish, topped with cabbage and a creamy sauce. You'll find a lot of this in the Baja area. Tacos de asada, a go-to for the north for sure, which are grilled beef tacos usually garnished with cilantro, onions, and salsa. Tacos de cochinita pibil, which we talked about in the previous episode. Also, it's a Yucatan specialty featuring slow-roasted pork, marinated in achote paste and sour orange juice. And then last but not least, and I'm sure there are other tacos that we've left out today, but tacos de lengua, which are made with beef tongue that's been braised until tender, then sliced and served with usual taco toppings like cilantro, onions, and salsa. There's a recurring theme here, and that's truly the only way to eat tacos, in my opinion. The history of the taco reflects the blending of indigenous and European culinary traditions, regional diversity, and the globalization of Mexican cuisine. Today, the taco continues to evolve, delighting palates around the world with its endless varieties and flavors. Wow. Now, before we wrap up today's episode, I hope you enjoyed this little regional trip we took around Mexico to talk tequila, Mexico City, and the different tacos that the country has to offer. Hopefully, you also enjoyed what you learned about Mezcal. And if you enjoyed the content, you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. You can also find it on Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and Apple. Your support does mean the world to me. So until next time, take care and grill on.